Do you want to know what the secret to successful virtual events is? Well, I've got you covered today. So, for reference, a virtual event is really one of the most powerful tools that you can use to build a community, to connect with your community that you are building, to grow your business, to grow your impact, to help more people, and to do it with heart. So my event called Expand Your Reach was by far one of my favorite things that I have ever done in my business. It was so heart-centered. I had amazing guests, and I'm not going to brag, but lots of attendees said it was the best event that they had ever attended, virtual or in person or anything. And they even paid to be at that event. And my guest setup is even bigger and more badass than this one. In fact, he and his wife run events for Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi, Jeff Walker, Amy Porterfield, Stu McLaren, and lots more. And here's the thing. You see that picture and you're like, whoa, I can't do that. But it is not just about the tech. And you can actually do it, and you don't have to do it that fancy. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. But really, we're going to talk about the tech, but successful events are also about the way that you do them, right? And there's one secret that you really need to know, the biggest mistake that people make when it comes to running virtual events. So we're gonna dive into all of that. My goal for you today is to gain confidence that you can actually do this, so that you can serve more people with heart and grow your business all at the same time. If you have questions, be sure to put a Q in front of your question if you're watching live, or drop that in the comments. We'll answer every single one of them. If you're ready to dive in, say yes in the comments, and let me introduce you to my guest, Blue Melnick. Welcome, welcome, Blue.
Hey, Luria, so good to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I screwed up at the beginning when I started talking to you. I needed more coffee, I think.
That's the way it goes. I didn't get a ton of sleep last night. I happen to live in Charleston, South Carolina, and I don't know if you can see it behind me, but Hurricane Debbie is coming our way. I think it's just a tropical storm right now, but we're expecting, I don't know, historic flood levels. So hopefully my power and everything remains constant over the course of this time.
This conversation, yeah. Well, let's hope. If we just suddenly lose Blue, we'll, hopefully find him later.
Hopefully, yeah. In a canoe, like going down Main Street or something.
You're gonna be on the news, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Blue, you and Barry run these amazing virtual events for people, and you teach people how to run virtual events. And you and I have done a lot of partnering up on stuff in the past, but I wanted to bring you on today to really help instill some confidence in people. I think that that's one of the biggest things that I see from people is it's intimidating. Doing these virtual events, especially when they see me or you do it the way we do, it's there's no way. I have to wait until I have everything perfect. I have to wait until I'm ready. So what do you say to that?
Well, I mean, honestly, I wish I had it in front of me, but we have a water bottle that was sent to a whole bunch of attendees for an event that we did recently, and it says progress, not perfection, right? And the biggest way to stay stuck, or the easiest way to stay stuck and stay where you are and not have the success you want, is to not get started, right? Or to wait for it to be perfect, or wait until you can afford the camera that you want or the microphone that you want. And the thing that I say to folks all the time, because we work with some incredible names, you mentioned a lot of them, but we work with thousands of people you've never heard of, people who host events for 10, 20, 30 people from their living room. And the thing that's amazing about it is you don't need a whole lot of technology to make it perfect. You don't need, listen, I love tech as much as the next person, right? Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have blue lights behind me and a TV hanging on the wall and a teleprompter in front of me and, the camera that Luria told me to buy 4 years ago. Like, I wouldn't have all of those things,
Right.
but I love technology.
You do.
But the cool thing is you don't need this stuff. It can be easy and it can be familiar. That's the thing that I think, when you say intimidating, during the pandemic, we all had to do certain things, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of put aside our fear of technology and just kind of got
Just
it done because it was the
did it.
only way to work.
Yeah.
Exactly. But now that we have options, path of least resistance sometimes is like, I'm just gonna, do the thing that I used to do rather than this whole virtual event thing. But the really cool thing about what we do, what we coach our clients to do, is that all of the things that we have them use, all of the tools that they use are things that are familiar. Like, as an example, we are a huge proponent of, regardless of the size of your event, Zoom is the platform that you should be on. And, we have an event happening right now. A gentleman by the name of Jim Quick is in our studio.
Nice.
And yeah, he's awesome. He's got an event for like 10, 12,000 people, something like that. And it's all running on Zoom. And what's cool about that for you at home thinking about hosting an event is you're probably familiar with Zoom. But what's equally cool about that is your attendees are familiar with Zoom,
Yeah.
right? So nobody needs to learn new technology. Nobody needs to install this new software. Like, it's nice, it's easy, it's ubiquitous. It's just, yeah. Anyway, you asked me one simple question and I just kind of rambled for like 5 minutes.
That's what I love about you, Blue. It's why I have you on my show, so I don't have to do any work. I just let you talk. So you say, you could do it for like 10 or 20 people, like, and at that phase, right? Like, when you're just starting out, it is easy to do with just simple tech, just simple gear. You don't need to buy a whole lot of fancy stuff. And you can always grow from there. I always say, talking about perfection, like, stay in imperfect action. That's the way to success. And if you can focus on that. And so literally you have people who are doing these virtual events at home from their living room or from their desk office or their office desk with like just a laptop, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, especially if you're, listen, I'm partial to Macs generally speaking, but Macs or PCs, anything built in the last 5 years, they've got good cameras, they've got decent microphones. Like, you really don't need anything.
Yeah.
The thing that's most important that you do is that you stand up. Right. And you don't need a whole lot of equipment for that. Just, save a few Amazon boxes, put them on their side and, get them at about eye level. Or if you have a standing desk, great. But if you don't, just add a box on top and put your laptop there. Yeah, exactly. Right. And just like eye level.
Yeah.
And, that immediately is going to change both your perception of the experience and also your attendees' perception of you. So it's amazing what you can do with a change in camera angle and a little bit of natural light to really create a much different experience without having to invest in new tech. But like I said, I love new tech, and everything that your audience gets to learn from you is makes it so that they're probably a step ahead of many people, actually.
That's true. That's true. Like, because you are part of this community, you guys are ahead than most people in the world when it comes to gear. But I will say this, tapping into what you said about like Macs having good cameras, I don't think I've ever said this publicly. So I'm gonna do it and just risk it. But sometimes I go on to, interviews or Zoom calls, and I'm just using my MacBook camera. And because people are always asking me what camera I use, they ask me, what camera am I using? And I'm like, MacBook camera? Because it's so good. So it really can start you off. Just had to say that.
Yeah, no, it really can. And, what's even more amazing, I think that you'll understand this, but for longer format events like the ones that we teach, audio is just as important as video. And one of the really neat things, one of the great things about pretty much any Mac built in the last 5-6 years, they have really great microphones. To the point where I have like a Rode Wireless Go that I demo every once in a while. And whenever I demo the Rode Wireless Go after I've demoed the built-in microphone from my 2020 2014 MacBook, people always say that the Rode sounds worse than the MacBook did.
I love that.
Which is hysterical. Now, the thing that the Rode gives you is the ability to walk away from your MacBook a little bit, right?
Yes.
So it gives you a little bit more range. But
Yeah.
it is really amazing what today's laptops can do.
So key takeaway, stand up because it will give you the energy that you need to present a virtual event. Use what you got, get started, take imperfect action, and don't worry about the gear so much. So let's talk about the types of events that you actually do teach. There are multiple kinds of virtual events. Like mine, I did everything you say not to do. I had a whole bunch of guests, you included, on my virtual event, and I broke the rules there. But talk to me about the different types of events and what is the right way to go about this.
Yeah, so I really think it starts with outcome first, right? What is it that you're hoping to achieve as a result of your live event, right? When somebody asks me what kind of event I host, the first question I say is, what do you want from your event, right? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to make an offer? Are you trying to invite people to a coaching program or a mastermind group? Are you trying to launch a low ticket membership for like $197? Are you just looking to do some lead generation? Are you looking to partner with some guest speakers and do a summit? Those are all very, very different things, right?
Yeah.
And the type of instrument is different. The type of event that you need to produce is a little bit different at each level, right? So as an example, if I was launching a high ticket offer, something that let's just say is over $5,000 to purchase, and inviting people to a coaching program or a mastermind, I would recommend that you do a 3-day event. And 3 days of events, oftentimes, as soon as I say that, people are like, whoa, I am not ready for 3 days.
Yeah.
Let's just like step off the gas there, buddy. Let's hit the brakes a little bit. I'm not there yet. And I'll tell you, my wife, Barry Baumgartner, who's also my business partner and partner in life, oftentimes will say a saying that she learned a long time ago, which is, if I had more time, I'd write you a shorter letter.
Yes.
Right. And live
I
events
love
are
that
no
one.
different. Right. So live events are no different. If you try to compress time, it's actually harder. So it's hard to believe because it's counterintuitive, but for people who are just getting started, a longer format like 3 days is way easier because the structure is so much more forgiving. And on top of it, it gives you the know, like, and trust factor, right? Spending 3 days with somebody really increases your connection to that person. So launching a high ticket offer like that works great out of a 3-day event. It's actually what Barry and I specialize in. It's what most of our coaching clients do. What most of the folks that you mentioned as you introduced me, that's what they
I do, yeah.
But I'll give you an example. Jim Quick, who's here, is essentially doing a summit, right? And it's very much a lead generator for him. And he's building his list through the process of inviting a whole bunch of amazing speakers and having them come and share, but also having them promote. So the summit model is a style of live event and also works really, really well. So there's a lot of different ways to structure an event. In short, an event is just a gathering of people at a specific moment in time, and a virtual live event is doing that virtually rather than having to get on a plane and deal with weather systems.
Yeah, you wouldn't be making it out today. But
Barry is stuck in California.
Oh no.
Stuck.
Yeah. She's like, yay.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that I think people like 3 days, whoa. But like the other whoa thing is you just said $5,000, like launching a high ticket offer. And that causes a lot of people just to stop in their tracks. So let's dive into that, because this is one of the biggest mistakes that people do make when they want to run a virtual event.
Yeah. So, generally speaking, we support people who are looking to take information that they know and package it in a way that they can then sell it to others for them to learn from their experiences, right? Another way to say that is to every, third grader or fourth grader is a god. So the information business is huge. It's very, very easy to get into. It's low cost, like low barrier to entry. But there's a significant mistake that many people make when they're just getting started, and that's that they start with low ticket, because a lot of times what they'll hear is you got to create a product, or you got to create this tripwire thing, or a low cost ebook, right? And then just sell a lot of them. The problem with that is when you're just getting started, you don't have an audience yet, right? Or you don't have a big audience. Maybe you have 100 people, 200 people on a list, right? And half of them are your family and friends, which is fine, but you don't have a big audience. And there's really 4 things that I think of when starting a business that are important. You've got the volume of sales that you can make, right? So low volume or high volume. And then you have what you're actually selling people as your service, right? So I just say low ticket or high ticket. And when you combine low volume with low ticket, you wind up with no business, right? Or you wind up just stuck where you are, because Luria, you said it earlier, is when you're thinking about gear, right? Just get started and make a little bit of money, and then invest in a camera, and then make a little money and invest in a microphone, and then in a light or whatever. But if you don't ever make the money part, you can't move forward. And that's where low ticket, low volume really, really hurts people and keeps them stuck and keeps them thinking to themselves, maybe I'm just not cut out for this entrepreneurial thing. Maybe I should just go back and get a job, right?
And I think that's, so Joshua is saying, like, with LSP and Sage, Blue's company, I changed my whole business model, and we are selling $5,000 high ticket offers. And I will tell you this, Joshua is not alone, because if you attend the deeper dive training that we have linked to in the description, if you go to, what is it?
sagehub.com/Luria.
There you go. If you go there, then, Blue and Barry are going to walk you through everything you need in order to get confident going that route, because that's one of the biggest things that they're going to cover in this event coming up. So that's really exciting. Like, just take Joshua's word for that. It's powerful.
Yeah. Josh, it's good to see you. Josh and I haven't spoken. I feel like it's been about a year and a half or so, but good to see you, my friend. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, and it's interesting that you say that. I think generally speaking, we guide our clients through a 6-step process that helps them get to where they are wanting to go. Step number 1, and this is part of what we teach at the virtual event on virtual events. Step 1 is getting clear on what your vision is, what your big why is, and what your non-negotiables are. You have to understand those things in order to move to the next step. And this is the order that you have to do things in. And people oftentimes get this order reversed and will actually go backwards. So that's the first thing that you have to do. The second thing you have to do is get clear on what your offer is, right? That's one of the things that we spend a lot of time focused on day 1 of the virtual event on virtual events, is figuring out what your offer is. There's several structures, but what's the structure that's going to work best for you, and how do you price it? Those are things that we help you get answered on day 1. Then you start thinking about marketing. How am I going to fill my event? What are the tactics? What are the strategies that I'm going to use? Are you going to use live streams? Are you going to use webinars? Are you going to use email? Are you going to use social? What are the avenues that you're going to use to promote your event? So tactics are important on that front. Next up is what we call content, or your program at a glance is a term that we use. You'll often hear Barry or I say PAG. And that's basically, what's the content flow that you're teaching? What's the journey that you're taking your attendees on? Whether the event is a 1-hour event or a 3-day event, what's the journey? And from there, once you have those things, right? Once you have your vision and your big why, once you have your marketing and your offer and your content, you can start with your messaging. And you can start getting clear on how you're going to talk to your attendees or your prospects about the benefits of coming to your event. So messaging is super important. It's the 5th step. And then the 6th and final step, which is where most people start, especially with virtual events, is the technology. Like I said, I think you guys are all a step ahead of the game, but it's definitely one of those things that the technology is very familiar for most people, and we try to keep it that way because simplicity is king, right?
Yes, for sure. And so recap that secret for me in one sentence.
You know, the bottom line is, if you want to grow your business, the fastest way to do it is through a high ticket offer. If you want to enroll your audience in a high ticket offer, the easiest way to do that is through a virtual live event. And when you combine those things, it's what we call a purpose-driven payday, and that's what we teach people how to do. That's it. It's as simple as that.
I love that. And, you know, a lot of people get high ticket confused with salesy and gross. So, and one of the things I love about the virtual event on virtual events, I always screw that one up, which is the deeper dive training that you can attend with Barry and Blue, is that heart really comes through in your events, and you guys are heart-driven, heart-centered, and you really care deeply, and it can be done.
It totally can. And, you know, we definitely believe in, you know, a lot of people say sales is service, or a service first mentality. But one of the things that we believe, there's 2 aspects to this. Number one, when you enroll people in your event, you have to deliver what you promise, right? So you don't just bring people to your event to enroll them in your thing. You have to deliver what you promised when you sold them the ticket. Right? So one of the things that we promise is that you walk away from the virtual event on virtual events with your own proven playbook that we provide you with, that you filled in over the course of those 3 days. So you have a step-by-step blueprint for what you're going to do when you leave those 3 days. You get that. And is there an opportunity to go deeper with us? Yes, of course there is. But it doesn't feel like a sales event because it's not. It's service first, right? And we oftentimes say serve really, really hard, so you can sell really easy. Another way that we say it sometimes is, you know, sell for 3 days so you can serve for 352 or whatever the number is. We're both Barry and myself are very much of the belief that if you don't serve your audience, you're never going to sell them.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you guys can learn more at sagehub.com/Luria, personalized page that Blue put together for you guys, which is awesome and nice. But let's start. Again, coming from Josh. Those considering the virtual event, I found LSP, which led me to meeting Sage. I did have an existing business, but I can say that combo has added over $500,000 a year to our top line revenue, which is amazing.
Awesome.
Just incredible.
To take a screenshot of that.
Yes. I'll leave the replay up for you. But, you know, and I want to make sure that we answer a couple questions that have come through as well. But I want you guys to take away from this that you can do it. You can do it simply and easily through the tech. It doesn't have to be what you see me do or what he does. It doesn't have to be complicated. It can be streamlined. It can be simple. And it can be done with a heart of gold. So I just want you guys to really, really hear that from today.
Yeah, and Luria, just really, really quickly, and then, let's get those questions answered. Just for you, we did a while ago, we had an ultra early bird ticket, which was $47. The current ticket price is $97. But Barry and I chatted, and we, on that link that is just for you, that's sagehub.com/Luria, We've reopened the ultra early bird ticket price, so you can save an extra $50 and come show up. That ticket's available till tomorrow night at midnight, which is
Okay.
August 7th at midnight PT.
Nice. That's so nice of you. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that.
Of course.
And my audience
Thank you for
appreciates
having me.
that. Yeah. All right, let's tackle a question. Going back to the tech, Clayton was asking about redundancy for the tech because a virtual event is really important and you don't want to, have something go wrong. So the question is like, so with so many folks on the other end, should we pre-plan redundant hardware sources like a laptop backup in case the main system fails? What are your recommendations around redundancy?
Yeah, first off, this is such a great question. I will tell you, because of my business, I'm a little redundant nutso. So here in our studio, we have a generator that powers our studios as well as our server closet. So if we do lose power, and we are live with an event, the event doesn't go down. In addition to that, we happen to also have 2 different internet service providers in our studio. So if one service provider goes down, the other one automatically takes over. So we bring a lot of redundancy to the table, but I was just having this conversation with a group of people who asked a similar question. And I'll tell you the single most important thing that I would plan for, and it's really easy, is putting an uninterrupted power supply or UPS on your modem, right?
Yes.
On your modem and router.
Yes.
The thing that gives you internet at your house. And don't plug anything else into that, right? Because if you spend about $150 to $200 at Best Buy and all you plug in is that, you're going to get redundant power probably for 2, 3, 4 hours, depending on how much you spend. It's going to be pretty significant.
Yeah.
And if you pair that with your primary computer that you're streaming with being a laptop, then you're also going to have power on that side. So I think power outages are the things that are the most scary to me. I will tell you, generally speaking, that's where, if I think back to the outages that we have experienced over the course of the last 4 years doing virtual events, every single one of them, with the exception of one, has been related to power. The exception was we were doing a Tony Robbins event in September of 2021. And September of 2021 was just as the majority of schools were actually going back to school, but not going back to school. They were all going back to school on Zoom. And I don't know if you remember, but there was one day in September of 2021 where Zoom went down.
Oh, that's
and
right.
It went down for about 3-4 hours. So yeah, we were in the midst of starting a live event right at that time. So, but honestly, since then, and we've had hundreds of thousands of people on Zoom simultaneously. We've had millions of people go through our events. It's. So that's power is the one thing that I would say.
Definitely.
Make sure you get a little bit of redundancy on.
For sure. We put, when we do custom studio builds, like we are definitely putting those UPSs in every build just because you can't risk it, especially when you're doing money generating things, right? But the other thing I would say in terms of redundancy is not just the tech, is mental redundancy. Like have a plan in place for what happens if. Go through that scenario in your brain and make sure that test it, yes, for sure, but also like have this backup plan and make sure that you are prepared to deal with it mentally, because it will throw you off and you will freak the out. It will be like freak out mode. So if you know that, okay, my backup plan is to jump on my phone and get back in there, or to have a link that you are sending people to, a backup Zoom link or whatever. Like there are multiple ways you can handle that, but just mental redundancy and backup plans are really important too.
Yeah, I will tell you, just recently, a client, not in our studio but elsewhere, had a power outage on the afternoon of his 3rd day.
Yeah.
And they had a laptop open and they hotspotted it to
go.
phone that had 5G, and all of a sudden he was back online, even though the power was still out. So, having a plan and going through it are both really, really, really key.
Yeah, for sure. All right, any tips for maximizing the hybrid experience for both audiences?
Yeah, this is an easy one. Don't do it. Yeah. And here, listen, you may think that I'm being cheeky. I know some people are going to do it anyway, and I know you're going to have some people who have some success with it. But generally speaking, the problem with hybrid is that you have two different audiences who are having two vastly different experiences, right? And most of the time, what winds up happening for a hybrid event is the people in the room wind up having a great experience because everything is tailored to them. And the people online are just watching a feed of what's happening in the room. And it's almost like we're at the looking glass, kind of going like, what's going on in there? What's going on in there? Rather than when you have a virtual event and there isn't that component, the entire connection, like right now with us, right? The entire connection is just with you, right? I'm not looking over here and having a conversation with Betty and Susie, and then over here and having a conversation with Jim, and you're just watching it, right? And that disconnect, it doesn't matter how hard you try to overcome it. And we have tried. We have done a lot of different things.
I'm sure.
To give it a go. But I will tell you, your best bet, hands down, is just to do them separately. Do your in-person event, and then separately do a virtual event.
Yeah.
And if you want to take, some content from your in-person event, let's say you had an amazing guest speaker, and you want to use that keynote as part of your content inside your virtual event, then do that. That's fine. Like have it as what we call a just as a video playback within your event. But I would avoid hybrid at all costs.
Fair enough. Natalie is joining you at the virtual event on Virtual Events. Congratulations. You are going to love it, Natalie.
Oh, nice.
I just had to. All right. You guys, head on over to sagehub.com/Luria if you want to dive deeper, if you want to gain the confidence to be able to do a virtual event yourself. Blue, thank you so very much for hanging out with me and delivering massive value today.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and with your group. Natalie, good to have you with us. I see a few other people who are joining as well. We're excited to have you. Thanks for putting your trust in us. It's going to be an amazing 3 days.
Can't wait. I'll be there as well, popping in and out and making sure that you guys are settled and having a good time. All right, Blue, thank you so much. Stay safe. Everybody say bye.
We're going to try and stay dry over here.
Yes.
That's all we're doing. Staying dry.
Bye.